Welcome to the Visual COBOL in a Nutshell series of presentations. This module will introduce you to the Visual COBOL family of products by providing you with a brief product overview. So, what exactly is Visual COBOL? That is an excellent question that many of our customers have been asking us lately. Well, Visual COBOL is the next generation in the evolution of Micro Focus COBOL products, following on from COBOL Workbench, Object COBOL, and the NetExpress and Server Express product lines. Visual COBOL maintains a high degree of compatibility with these older generation products, but opens up a whole new world of development and deployment possibilities by integrating into such industry standard IDEs as Visual Studio and Eclipse, and allowing deployment to such platforms as the .NET Framework, Java Virtual Machine, and the cloud. At the heart of Visual COBOL is the compiler. In addition to the object formats supported by NetExpress and Server Express, such as int and gent, and native object code, which is linked by the system linker, Visual COBOL has been enhanced to also generate managed .NET assemblies and Java bytecode that can take full advantage of the .NET Framework and Java class libraries respectively. So, which product do I need? Visual COBOL comes in 3 product flavors for development, as well as a single product flavor for deployment. The development flavor that you choose depends mainly on your target platform for deployment. If you wish to develop applications that will run under Windows or the .NET Framework, then Visual COBOL for Visual Studio would be your best choice. If you wish to develop applications that will run under Linux, or you wish to run applications directly under a Java Virtual Machine as Java bytecode, then Visual COBOL for Eclipse would be your best product option. If you wish to develop applications that will run under Unix variants such as AIX, HPUX, or Solaris, then you would use the Visual COBOL Development Hub product. The Development Hub product can also be used in conjunction with the Visual COBOL for Eclipse product installed on either Windows or Linux to provide you with a robust graphical development environment that allows you to remotely edit, compile, and debug your programs that are running directly on the target computer. For deployments of your compiled application, there is a companion COBOL server product for each supported platform. So let's take a closer look at each of these products. So what exactly is Visual COBOL for Visual Studio? Well, Visual Studio is the industry standard development environment from Microsoft. If you are upgrading from a previous Micro Focus product for Windows, such as NetExpress, then this is your logical upgrade path. Visual COBOL will be installed into either an existing version of Visual Studio if one is installed, or it will automatically install and integrate into a Visual Studio shell version. If you are using the shell version, then only the COBOL language will be available for your use. If, however, you have a full version of Visual Studio installed, such as Professional, Enterprise, or Developer, then you will be able to develop alongside other languages such as C# and Visual Basic.NET. Visual Studio Express versions are not supported. Within Visual Studio, you can create native COBOL projects that will generate Micro Focus proprietary int or gent code, or native Windows objects that can be linked as .exes or DLLs. Managed code projects allow you to generate .NET assemblies for templates such as Windows Forms, Windows Presentation Foundation, and web applications and services such as ASP.NET and Windows Communications Foundation. These assemblies can run side by side with those assemblies generated by C# and Visual Basic.NET and have complete access to the entire .NET framework of classes. There are 2 different installers for the Visual COBOL for Visual Studio product. One will install into Visual Studio 2010, and the other will install into Visual Studio 2012. Let's take a quick look at what the Visual COBOL for Visual Studio product looks like. So here we see Visual COBOL for Visual Studio. This particular version is using Visual Studio 2010 Premium. If we create a new project, We can see that COBOL is listed as a language right alongside the Microsoft languages such as Visual Basic and Visual C#. In the COBOL category, we have several subcategories for different types of applications. We can create SQL Server stored procedures. We can create native applications like those that you would have created with NetExpress, web applications such as ASP.NET, or other managed code templates such as Windows Forms for graphical applications, or Windows Presentation Foundation applications, Windows Communication Foundation services. Okay. For our simple demo here, we'll create a managed code console application, and we'll give it a name of Hello COBOL and create that. When Visual COBOL creates a new project, it creates a default set of properties and also presents you with a program skeleton so that you can start editing right away. If we look at our properties, and we see you have options such as the assembly name, the target framework for the .NET framework, where your copy books are located, compiler directives, other options. Okay. In the editor, it'll show margins depending on the source format you're using. We're using variable format here that shows a margin of 1 through 7 on the left side and no margin on the right. Okay. Other options that are supported in the editor are colorization, so that you can tell the different components of the source, such as data names, COBOL data reserved words are colorized differently. If we start typing, we'll see that background parsing is also supported, so the compiler is actually checking your program as you're entering it. We'll just put a simple data item in working storage and a couple of statements on the procedure division. Put a space in there, and okay, here we can see the background parsing in effect. If I mistype a data item, it will give me immediate feedback on that so I can fix the problem before it becomes a bigger problem. Here it shows me that this operand is not declared, so I can go and fix that. Now that I have an error-free program, I can run it under the debugger by pressing F11. That builds it automatically and invokes the debugger. Okay, we can see that we're now at the first source line, and we can do other debugging functionalities such as looking at data items. We could set breakpoints. We can single step through it. We can put watches on variables. Here I can continue to single step through it by pressing F11. Okay, it's waiting for me to press enter key, so I'll press that. We go back to Visual Studio and end our program. Now if we take a look at what this looks like, and one thing to notice is that this is a managed code program, but there's no object orientation in sight. It's just a standard procedural code COBOL program. So it does not have to be object oriented in order to work as a managed code program. Okay, if we look at what is generated for this, we see that there's a folder with the same name as the project, Hello COBOL. In that folder, by default, it creates a set of the Visual Studio project files and solutions along with our source, and then it creates an output folder containing the assembly. Here the assembly is called hellocobol.exe. That is the default name for a managed code console application, is a .exe extension, along with any files necessary for debugging. I can run this also directly from Windows, so it's a true .NET assembly. Okay. So that is Visual COBOL for Visual Studio. So what exactly is Visual COBOL for Eclipse? Well, Eclipse is an industry standard open source IDE that is developed and maintained by the Eclipse Foundation. It supports many add-ins for languages such as Java, C, C++, Perl, and others. Visual COBOL integrates with Eclipse to allow you to develop your COBOL applications alongside these other languages. Eclipse runs under both Windows and Linux, and Visual COBOL has a product that will install into either environment. The Eclipse IDE is bundled with Visual COBOL and will be installed automatically when Visual COBOL is installed. If you have a current version of Eclipse installed and configured, then it is also possible to install Visual COBOL into this existing version. Within Eclipse, you can create native code projects that will generate Micro Focus proprietary int-jint code or native code objects that can be linked with a system linker for either Windows or Linux, depending on where the product is installed. Managed code projects allow you to generate Java bytecode directly in .class files that can run under a Java virtual machine environment. These class files can be run side by side with Java compiled class files and have complete access to the Java class framework. Let's take a quick look at what the Visual COBOL for Eclipse product looks like. So this is the Eclipse IDE into which Visual COBOL has been installed. We have a COBOL Explorer here. We can create a new project in Eclipse by using File, New. We get a list of project types. COBOL JVM project is a managed code project. Will generate Java class files. A COBOL project indicates a native project that will generate either int or jint or object code, depending on the target that you choose. Okay. To be in line with the previous demo for Visual Studio, we'll create a COBOL JVM project, give it a name. Again, we'll call it Hello COBOL. And we see that we have options such as which Java runtime environment to use, because it will generate a true Java class file. Okay, now we have a project. We can see that it's created a couple of folders here, a folder for the binaries and a folder for source code. Okay, if we create new and add a program here, we have options to add a class or interface or other OO type templates. But we'll just choose a COBOL program, which is a standard procedural COBOL program, to show that this can be used in a managed code environment. And we'll give it a name, Hello COBOL, CBL. And again, we're given a skeleton program so that we can start editing right away. You notice that the IDE looks very similar to Visual Studio, as you would expect in a graphical development environment. We have the same kind of options, such as colorization of the source code to show you the different components, such as reserved words or COBOL data items, etc. You also have your background parsing and IntelliSense to help you with your coding and to give you immediate feedback on errors. Okay, we'll create the same program in Eclipse with our data item, and in procedure, we'll do our display of Hello COBOL, followed by an accept statement. And we can see that we have the same feedback here from the background parsing, telling us that any key U is not defined, so I can fix it immediately before it becomes a bigger problem. Okay. In order to debug this, build it and debug it, we can press the F11 key, choose to debug it as a COBOL JVM app, and this will bring up the Eclipse debug perspective, which allows you to have various windows open to look at watch variables, breakpoints, other options. You have debugging functionality like being able to look at data items or set breakpoints, add watches, single step through the code. In Eclipse, there's an additional feature, which is to be able to see an outline of your program, so you can do items like see where any key is defined or where it's referenced, and it will take you right there. Okay. In order to single step through this, we'll just press the F5 key to keep going. We can see that our console output is shown in the console window, where it's now waiting for user input. I press enter, it comes back to the debugger and completes. If we look at what's generated in the Eclipse version, we can see that there is a folder with the name of the project, Hello COBOL. If we look in it, it has its project files that are created by Eclipse, and then your source folder containing your program, and the binary, the bin folder that contains the output, which is a .class file. Now, this cannot be run directly. It needs to be run using Java virtual machine, because it is a true class file. Okay, so that is the Visual COBOL for Eclipse product. So what is Visual COBOL Development Hub? If you are developing applications to be run under Unix systems such as AIX, HPUX, and Solaris, then you will need the Development Hub product in order to do so. It is the next generation of Server Express product and provides for character-based debugging tools and a compiler that can be run directly on the target Unix computer. In addition, Micro Focus highly recommends that you use the Development Hub in conjunction with the Visual COBOL for Eclipse product in order to provide you with a robust graphical development environment in which you can remotely edit, compile, and debug your application, which is running directly on the target Unix computer. The Development Hub product is capable of generating Micro Focus proprietary int-jint code or native code objects that can be linked with the system linker on your target computer. You can also generate Java bytecode directly in Java class files. These formats can be generated directly from the command line utilities or from the remote Visual COBOL for Eclipse connection if one is available. Last but not least is the COBOL Server product. After your application is compiled and debugged and ready to be deployed in a production environment, this is when the COBOL Server product comes into play. COBOL Server contains all necessary runtime files and license management software that is required to run your COBOL applications. Your compiled applications cannot run on a non-development machine without COBOL Server installed. Companion versions of COBOL Server are available for each of the Visual COBOL development platforms. Visual COBOL and COBOL Server cannot be installed on the same computer, and each product is licensed separately. Please speak with your Micro Focus Sales Account Manager for product pricing, availability, and licensing questions. This brings us to the end of this Visual COBOL product overview. Thank you for watching, and happy programming!